A Minnesota doctor is leading a movement to protect children and calling on her medical colleagues to stop promoting surgery as social affirmation. What medical science really says about so called gender affirming care. Next. Dr. Jill Simons is the executive director of the American College of Pediatrics. Doctor, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Recently, you announced the Doctors Protecting Children Declaration at a press conference in Washington, D.C. Let's just start there. What is the purpose of the declaration and what specifically does it say?
Thank you. Thank you again for having me and shining light onto this declaration. We, for years at the American College of Pediatricians, have been speaking out against the harms of these so-called gender affirming care. And we have many colleagues that are also speaking out against this. And for years, we've been dismissed, called fringe, pushed aside. And we knew that our facts, were true, and this is what the research is saying, that these treatments are harmful. And we also knew that we are in the majority, our opinion, but that doctors and science is being silenced. And so amongst ourselves and amongst our other colleagues, we just thought it was time that we just have to come together in one loud voice and say, enough, this is harming children.
There is quite a long list on your website of medical and health policy organizations, doctors, health leaders who support this declaration. Why did you want to lead this? That takes some courage in all of this. And why has this been so important to you personally?
So the American College of Pediatricians is in a very unique spot in that we are the only medical organization of pediatricians that is speaking out on this. We're not religious based. We're just a medical organization. So we are one of the few organizations that can stand toe to toe, eye to eye with our medical colleagues in the American Academy of Pediatrics, the AMA, the Endocrine Society. We have the same training. We are qualified. We speak up for patients, and so that put us in a unique spot to really be able to call for some true medical discussion on this. The other thing that put us in a great spot was almost a year ago, we launched what was called the Biological Integrity Initiative. And this was our way of really being a leader in helping children and families that are facing gender dysphoria and the transgender ideology. So we put all our resources on one website that parents could go to, doctors could go to, policymakers, sort of your go-to place. And in doing so, as part of this initiative, we reached out to many, many other organizations that are also speaking out about this. And we formed a coalition. And so we just solidified that relationship, and we've been speaking over the last months. And we all just decided we took the lead because of our unique position and being pediatricians. We decided that now was the time to speak out.
We often hear about gender affirming care from politicians. The corporate media helps to push this. But what does the science, actual medical research, really say about puberty blockers, surgeries, cross-sex hormones, and again, other kinds of so-called care?
Yeah, you're right. It's anything but care. It's not affirming. It's really at the heart of it, telling a child that they're born in the wrong body, that their body has betrayed them, and that's just something really cruel to do to someone and a child who's very impressionable and suffering. I mean, these children really are hurting in these families. There's no doubt about it. It's not to be dismissed. But we know, and recently the Cass report out of England, Dr. Cass, a pediatrician, did a huge 4-year investigation into their clinics, and she came out very strongly that even social affirmation, or calling a child by the opposite sex hormones, having them dress their preferred gender, is not benign, and that doing so sets them on a trajectory where they're more likely to go to puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and go down that path. Whereas we know if you support a child through natural puberty, that upwards of 98% will be comfortable with their biological sex by the time they've gone through puberty. I mean, the studies vary, but conservatively, 80%, some as high as I said, 98%. So Why would you medicalize all these children when the majority of them, when supported, will be comfortable in their body?
In so many ways, it seems like the US has fallen behind. Places like England, Finland, Denmark, Sweden, it seems the list continues to grow. They've reversed course. Instead of medical interventions for children, they are focusing more on mental health issues. Do you think that the US is far behind?
I am very optimistic because I speak with pediatricians, most of them anonymous, many, from Minnesota, that don't agree with what's being promoted, but they're just simply too afraid to speak out. I mean, pediatricians are under threat of, being reprimanded, losing their jobs, their careers are worse. And so the great majority of them that I speak to, say, I support this, but I can't speak out publicly. And that's just really sad. So I am optimistic, and that's why we took the lead, our coalition, to step out in front. We'll take the arrows, and hopefully that will, and it has drawn pediatricians and other healthcare workers from the sidelines to also speak out. And I think we're reaching a tipping point where doctors and other people can't just stand by and watch anymore, and they are speaking out.
On that note, Dr. Simons, you're affiliated with Children's Minnesota, a hospital here in the Twin Cities that we've reported on several times in the past. Just recently, the hospital made headlines putting a pronoun galaxy on display, encouraging parents to try new pronouns for their children. For someone like you, what's it like morally and ethically to work in that environment?
I call for my colleagues to be open to discussion and to, look at the science, look at the research, look at our European colleagues, and to discuss this. As doctors, we're trained to question things. We're trained to speak up when we think a medical error is happening. There's many checks and balances in the OR and other places in the hospital. And this is one area that open discussion and scientific discussion should be taking place. And so I'm urging my colleagues, and I know there are good pediatricians, and they want to take care of children the best way they can. I think they're just being misguided. They're not seeing the science. They're not really looking at this eyes wide open.
This seems to have a lot more to do with marketing and messaging than necessary medical procedures. Do you think this has damaged then trust in the medical profession? And what does that say about doctors these days?
Yeah, and that's very, it breaks my heart. I've, dedicated my life to medicine and doing, taking care of children, and to lose that trust and that respect really just shouldn't have happened. So that's why, again, as doctors, we're taking the lead in this. We're stepping up. We're saying to parents, you can trust us for reliable information. We're going to walk through this with your child. Let's look at the science. Let's talk about this. We should not be committing your children to lifelong medicalization. Let's really look into this. So I hope that parents, can find pediatricians that will listen to them and really look at the whole child. I mean, that's what's being called for. That's what we used to do for children with gender dysphoria. Look at all the child as a whole, any underlying neurodevelopmental disorders like autism, any mental health issues, family circumstances, and not ignore those. So that's really what we need to do.
Has there been any backlash then to you personally and others who support this declaration?
We've had overwhelming support from all over, from our declaration going viral on X, Elon Musk retweeting it. The declaration's been signed by thousands of doctors and healthcare workers in over 58 countries. So it's very clear that we've touched on something that people want to talk about. They want to see action, and they are supporting the best way to care for these children, looking at them, as the whole child, supporting them, not doing things that are going to harm them, harm healthy bodies, or, commit them to a lifelong of medical care.
That's reassuring to hear. The support certainly is there. To see the declaration for yourself and to get involved, please visit doctorsprotectingchildren.org. Again, Dr. Simons, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much.
That'll do it for this episode of Liz Collin Reports. We'll see you next time.